Hi guys, it's Kelly Latavola here and I'm back with another video for Neat and Tangled. Today we are going to be using Heartfelt Thanks and Circular as well as the dies that match that stamp set. So I had a different idea when I first started, and so you'll see kind of the metamorphosis of this card as we go through. This is from the latest release from Neat and Tangled, which we're gearing up for the November release. This is October's, but I had not yet had a chance to play with it, and so I wanted to be able to do that because, hello, do you see this floral bouquet? I mean, stop it. It's beautiful, and it's right up my alley, and I love it. So my original game plan was to stamp one in brown, so like this egg, it's called Egg Court Brown, I think, from Nouveau, and then to stamp it again in black, do the circles around it. Pretty much I was inspired from this Pinterest thing I saw. Pinterest is amazing and also terrible because you can get sucked in there and then hours go by and you don't even know where you are or what your name is or what day it is or the last time you showered. I mean, it can just pull you in. But if you're careful and you don't get sucked in for hours on end, it really is a great source of inspiration. So I'd seen on Pinterest this circular home decor thing, pretty much where they made a picture out of a bunch of circles. So I was trying to mimic that because I thought it looked really awesome. So here I have it all stamped in black, and now I'm going to stamp the circles over it. So my game plan was to color just like the circles part and have the circles part that were colored be popped up over the brown, so that you could see, so that the colored part would create the picture. Know what I'm saying? That's not what happened at all. But that was the game plan. So I'm just stamping a bunch of these circles, knowing full well that I'm going to die cut them out. So I'm trying to get some sort of balance here with the placement of my circles. It's very right hand heavy, but I knew I was going to put my sentiment more on the left hand side, just because there's an open space there. So just inking those up, stamping them down. Full disclosure, if you end up doing it the way that I do it, you don't actually have to do this step, okay? Just so you know. So here, all the circles are stamped, and I'm going to get into the Copic coloring. So the reason that you don't need to do what I did, you don't have to stamp them first, is because I ended up coloring the whole piece. Here's why. I ended up coloring the whole piece because I was worried that if I only colored the parts that were in the circles, that the shading would be off, because it's much easier to color a full flower than it is to color a partial flower. So I just figured, okay, I'll color the whole thing, and then I'm die cutting out most of it anyway, so it would just make sense. As far as shading goes, when we talk about shading things, any point where two objects meet gets shading. Any point where one object lays on top of another gets shading. So the only thing with this one is the illustrator, who is Rob, who's amazing. I love just everything he's putting out for Neat and Tangled. Just love, love, love it. But so he has drawn in some shading lines, some guidelines on this large, like sunflower style flower in the center. And so I'm just really following those guidelines. Super simple. You'll see as I go through and add the shading that if there's a line, I do a line. If there's multiple lines, I do multiple lines. The only parts that I did not follow his recommendation were the little petals that were behind, because I didn't want them to be super dark. So I opted not to add the shading to the edges and just add it where it was coming out from the other petals, and then I called it good and moved on. The way that I color, lightest to darkest, darkest back out to lightest. That's just how I feel like I get the best blend. That isn't necessary, so you color it any way you want to color it. When you have a really strong image like this one, you don't need to add all of this detail. This is the way that I prefer for my coloring to look, but it certainly isn't necessary. You could absolutely go in here with one color, 1-2 color blends, and this image would still look beautiful because it's a very strong, balanced illustration. So I'm out to my darkest. I'm going to go back into my lightest. You know how we roll. We'll pop in here periodically to talk about the coloring. I'm actually making this card because in my last video, I briefly touched on the fact that we had our Halloween fundraiser at work. I did not go back to that. So our Halloween fundraiser at work is for our PACT unit with police and citizens together, youth group, and we had so many people who were just amazing to show us support. So many businesses in the city that donated. We do a basket raffle. That's kind of like the incentive to come, as well as the, the things that we have for the kids. So we have like a costume contest. We have a DJ there who also donates his time because he's awesome and I love him. We have like games for them to play, and so there's a bunch of different things going on for the kids. There's also dinner that's included this year. We had a amazing, if you're local to Cleveland, Paisanos donated all of the food, catered it for us. So we just had so many people who supported us in the city, and it was amazing. Unfortunately, we did not have a great turnout this year. Last year we had a really, really great turnout. This year there was not that many people who came. And we did have some issues early on with the online ticketing. And so I don't know if that had to do it. Also, last year we were in the paper, which I think probably had more to do with it. This year we did not get in the paper. So just some things, to keep in mind. If you have any ideas for how to get the word out there about this annual Halloween party that we're putting on, please let me know in the comments. I'm down. I'm totally open to listen. Moving on to these other flowers. So the color palette that I had come up with was, I wanted it to be more fall, because that's just the season that we're in, and I wanted the opportunity to kind of use some of those color palettes. So I went with yellows, reds, and then greens, some olive greens, and then some brighter yellow greens. And then I thought that would work really nicely with that brown that I had originally stamped in. That's, again, not how it ended up going. But for this one, this open flower, the sunflower sitting on top of it, so that will have shading. And then where the petals are meeting each other in the center, those are all going to have shading. Where they're laying on top of one another also will have shading. The ones that are on the side, that shading works a little bit differently because it's going to be coming up from the base of the stem because it's a side view. So the shading will really be more just where they're laying on top of each other. Back to the fundraiser. So we did not have quite the turnout that we would have liked to see. And I mean, it's okay. We still had, and I guess the part that was like so sad is like the baskets were so good. We had like a $200 gift certificate to a jewelry store. We had a $200 gift certificate to it's like a service garage, but then they also have a gas station attached to it. So it was like $150 towards repairs, and then another $50 in like free coffee, fountain drinks, car wash, stuff like that. We had a bunch of dog baskets that were super awesome. There was just so much like good stuff, and it was just like people didn't come out. So that was kind of a bummer. And it also could have been the fact that we did it on a Sunday where there was a Browns game playing. But the Browns weren't on until 4:30, and the thing started at 1. So, anywho, I obviously wouldn't miss any kind of party for a football game, but I know I'm not the norm. I know that. But so we did have the Halloween party, which was good. But here's what I learned, and here's why we're talking about it. Because when we did the setup takedown, needed people to help out. Pretty much what happened was our families came and helped us. My family, Eric's family, his aunt donated like 4 different baskets, which were all awesome. One of them was like a Bath and Body Works with like all this pumpkin spice lotion candles. Then there was, she did one of the dog baskets. She did a automotive care basket, which was phenomenal. What was the 4th one she did? I can't remember, but they were all like just really awesome and good. And then Eric's parents came, his brother and his girlfriend came to support us. My sister, Kim, my other sister, had to work. My mom came. So it was just really like our families just totally showing up to support us and our youth group and this thing that we're very passionate about. The kids came, youth group kids came and helped out as well. So it was just like thinking about the season and that we're in and things that we're thankful for. We are very blessed that we have families that are super supportive, and I get that not everybody has that. And so I kind of want to, I don't know, I guess acknowledge how blessed I am, because my family is very supportive. And even when they don't, even when it's not something they're passionate about, or even when it's not something that interests them, like my mom isn't crafty at all. She doesn't like it. She doesn't enjoy it. It's not her thing. And when I first got into card making, like, she sat down and tried to make a card with me. My sister and I used to take card making classes together all the time. Kim's crafty, but in a different kind of way. More like home decor is her bag, which I would like to be. I think I could be crafty like that, but I just never have time to. Back to the card. So now everything's been outlined, the details have been added, and now I'm going to go in with the dies and line those up and just cut all of them out, just run them through my platinum. It did take me a couple of different times because I'm using multiples of the same circle, so that took a minute. And now here's where the game plan changes. So you can see how little of the image is left. And so I'm placing this back in. I was hoping to kind of use it like a template and then just lift this up and still have my images where I needed them to be on the brown. And that I ended up just scrapping the whole template idea and just placing them in there myself. But then once I did it and all of them were in place, I did not love it. It was not making this picture that I thought that it would make in my head. So I looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, and I thought, well, there needs to be something that sets it apart from the white. So I decided to go in on the circles and color it in with my black Copic marker so that the black would stand out from the white. Now, when you're doing this, make sure that the areas that you're coloring solid black, you're going around the edge of the circle, because otherwise you'll see that white edge and it'll look totally strange. So just something to note there. So I went through, I did this one, I put it back, and I was like, yes, better. So then I went through and colored all of them. I also, we talked about earlier, like trying to get that balanced design. So I put all of these down and very quickly realized that I was going to need some more of the tiny black dots, the smallest one. So once that's in, I was like, ooh, I like that much better, but it's very heavy on the right and I need more on the left, more of those little dots. So I pulled the whole thing apart again and then went back and cut some more of these little dots to try to make it more, I don't want to say symmetrical because that's not accurate, just try to make it more balanced, more even. So, and then I colored up the little black dots that I cut out, same way that I did the rest of them. I did because I'm going to now be using this piece because I did not like the way it looked on brown. So now I'm straight using the piece I cut it out of. I'm going to use the other one as a base layer to line up my images, but I'm using a adhesive remover eraser. I actually learned about this from Christina Warner, and it worked awesome to get like the tape stickies off from where I had done all my die cutting. So would recommend that, definitely. I'm going to glue this down flat, and then I'm going to pop up all of my circles over top of it. Whether you put the foam tape on the background or you put it on your piece, I found that either way worked fairly well. Just make sure that you're looking at it from all angles, because there's one that drives me crazy. It's this bottom one with the flower on it, that I didn't look at it from directly up above until I was taking my photos, and it's not lined up perfectly. You can see a little bit of the white and it's driving me insane. So FYI, just on that. But anywho, so I'm very lucky that I have a very supportive family. There's been things over the years that I've wanted to try or do or be involved in, and like I said, even if it's not necessarily their thing, they're willing to show up and support me in any way. So I'm very lucky that way. I know not everybody has that. But since, you know, we just talked about in the last video not skipping Thanksgiving, because that's a whole nother holiday. Hello. Like, it's not just Halloween, Christmas. But so I just wanted to kind of share a little bit about what I am thankful for. Plus, like, I mean, just in my regular everyday life, you guys know how much my parents help me out with Peanut. I don't like that old school saying, it takes a village to raise a child. That's so accurate. I do not understand how people do it on their own, because I could not survive my life without the help of, you know, my mom and dad, my siblings who are, you know, my constant last minute babysitters if I need them. This, all the things that Eric does for me. Like, I'm very, very lucky. God has been very good to me. So anywho, so now that this is all lined up and everything is put on there with the foam tape, I'm loving the way that this looks. I know that I'm more of a floral geometric person than all people, but I'm hoping that you guys are also a fan. And I did this with the circular set, but you could really do this with any like die cuts that any shapes that you have. It would probably be easier to do it with, you know, just your general basic shapes. But you could definitely do like triangles or diamonds, hexagon. Ooh, hexagons would be super cool. But yeah, there's all kinds of opportunities for this. And I just think it's really cool about how it looks like the picture is like kind of like bursting out of the page. For the sentiment, I'm doing just heat embossed white on black like I usually do this particular sentiment, and I really love the sentiment that's inside. I didn't use it. A heartfelt thanks for all the love and joy you bring to my life. I think that's super cute. It was too big for this particular card, so I went with the we are so grateful for you. It was a little bit too long, so I ended up just trimming it in between and making it like a step sentiment. The we are so does partially hang off of that circle enough that it's not stable, so I did have to use a little bit of foam tape just to make sure that that was going to be balanced and secure there. And then the grateful for you hangs over a little bit, but not enough that like putting foam tape behind it was really even worth the effort. So once I just made sure I was a fan of that, I'm going to peel off the sticky part, put glue on the part that'll be sitting on top of the flower, and then just smushed that right up against the side until the foam like met the circle. I hope that makes sense. And then for the grateful for you, I'm just going to glue that right to the flower because, like I said, the part that hung over was very minimal. I'm going to add some shine because you guys know I love the shine, but just to be aware, I did go over the entire circle without paying any attention to this, that, or anything else. I did found when I did the circles that had a larger black area that it was kind of picking up on the glitter pen. Just FYI. So that's it. That's the whole card. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.